Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today in this live podcast. Today's subject is why past and present popular diets are not advised. So, I'm not saying that all diets or popular diets are bad. I don't want to use such a simplistic word as bad. And I don't even want to go so far as saying fads, even though most of these diets are fads because they're not going to be around in 10, 15 years from now, with a few exceptions. Um, but I use the words carefully, not advised. So why are they not advised? Well, that's what I'm going to prove my case today, that any diet that you read about online, whether it's written by a medical doctor or a hippie in California who's a healthy vegan, uh, or a guy, muscle builder in the gym who loves his paleo diet or his carnivore diet or his high protein diet or the no carbs. No carbs is out. Carbs are out, which basically means grains because you couldn't technically live without carbohydrates. So it's kind of a misnomer to say I'm on a no carb diet, but I know people mean no grains. So we've had a long range of diets. When I was in the 70s, of course, there was the vegetarian diet, and I definitely followed the vegetarian diet for the majority of my life. So I wouldn't call it a fad diet, but it's definitely not advised for everyone. There's many people where a vegetarian diet could be a disaster. And I will give some of those examples. And then, of course, the vegan diet came, and the vegan diet basically just took out the dairy from the vegetarian diet. But unfortunately, they didn't follow the basic concepts of the vegetarian diet, which was, of course, getting their protein from legumes. The old book was very popular, Planet for a Small Planet, where they talked about combining proteins like grain and a bean together to get all the amino acids to get all of your complete protein. That was the understanding of the vegetarian diet, legumes and grains combined together. Well, that was kind of forgotten. And then there's a lot of people that have been doing the vegetarian diet without enough protein. So they have protein deficiencies, they have weakness, they become frail. And, that's why we get the saying soy boy, this soy guy who's eating too much soy, then he doesn't have muscle, he doesn't have protein, he doesn't have strength. So you can still have strength and muscle being on the vegetarian diet. You just have to make sure you're getting vegetarian proper protein. So this is the big problem with a lot of these diets. They just got more and more extreme, and people didn't really know how to do it. So, the old meat potatoes is an easy diet. I mean, you may not be very healthy. You may get cancer later in life. You may get constipation. You may get gallbladder stones. You may get fatty liver. You could have all types of problems later on in life, but just eating meat is actually pretty simple. It's probably why the carnivores did it. It was easy. You didn't have to think too much about your nutrition. You were just eating the flesh of other animals, and you got all your protein. Of course, there's zero fiber in animal protein, so this leads to constipation and blockages in the system. It's extremely high in fat, so you can end up these meat eaters like in the South and Louisiana and Texas and southern states. They're eating too much lard and fat and beef and pork, and then they get gallbladder problems, fatty liver problems, obesity problems, and tumors. And then the high protein of eating all that animal protein then, of course, creates high uric acid. Uric acid, is a waste product from a protein that's, cleaned out of your system through the kidneys, but it can damage the kidneys over long term. So high protein diet, which is what happens when you're just eating meat and potatoes, and carb diet, carnivore diet or a paleo diet or a keto diet where you're doing a high protein. And a lot of people are doing this protein and they're also, doing protein shakes on top of it. So I get people who got kidney failure in their 30s. And why were they? Weightlifters, almost inevitably, because they're trying to build muscle. So, you can see the two extremes I mentioned there. You got the vegetarians and then vegans who aren't having any animal protein, but aren't eating the legumes and doing the proper food combining to get the protein. So they become weak and frail and have certain health issues, basically due to this low protein diet. And they try to take a lot of supplements and vitamins, and that's where the juicing got in, and then protein powders. Everybody's trying to fill in the difference by these insufficient diets. And then, of course, nowadays we have the other extreme of these high protein diets that are having a lot of meat and fat and no vegetables. And of course, now everybody's anti-fruit. It's the new fad is fruit is all bad. And I just mentioned many health problems come from the high protein diet, probably more from the low protein. I'd rather be weak and frail and have no muscles and no libido, or for many women on a highly vegetarian diet to stay thin. They are eating almost no protein because they don't care about muscles. Maybe they just want to be thin. Well, then often they have problems with their menstrual cycle and fertility issues because of this low protein and this kind of state of depletion. But the other extreme, we're back to the other extreme of the weightlifters, the guys in the gym, they're eating the meat, the raw eggs, the protein powder. That's probably more dangerous. I would never take advice from a person in a gym because they're not interested in internal health. They're interested in physical appearance, and they want to build muscle and, have a six pack, etc. And they have way more problems because that high protein is going to be a cancer causing catalyst. When you have a tumor or cyst or a fibroid, anything growing on your body, the first thing you want to do is drop the protein. You don't see that with the vegetarians getting these big old tumors in their colon. One, all that greens and fiber and things that they're having keep the bowels pretty clean, and they're not having the meat and the animal protein, which clogs you up and has no fiber and creates, constipation, diverticulitis, and all types of problems in your colon. And it's a burden for your liver because you're taking all of this fat. And then it's a burden for your kidneys because you're having all this excess protein in the uric waste. Then you end up with gout, kidney stones, kidney failure. I mean, I'm getting a lot of people from kidney failure. You don't get a vegetarian doesn't get kidney failure. He may be a little weak. A woman may be infertile. The libido could be low, but they're not going to have their kidneys fail on them like the weightlifter having the meat and the eggs and the protein powders for 10 years with this high protein diet. Well, that will basically give you, so your kidneys will start to fail. And of course, people don't notice it right away. They just urinating at night. They don't think about it too much, and it just progresses. The next thing you know, they're scheduled for dialysis. So those are the two kind of extremes right there. But we can see that first we started eliminating too much meat, which I think was a good idea to go in that direction. I mean, too much animal. We were a kind of a meat and potato society. And moving a little bit more vegetarian was a good idea. But then we just kind of kept going, and we threw out all the dairy. And despite what vegans think, there's no vegan society in the world besides Southern California, which I love Southern California, but that's where it came from. There's no society. I spent a lot of time in India, and there are 300 million vegetarians in India. And basically every Indian you meet, whether I'm doing a patient with an Indian or not, I always ask, you veg or non-veg? Because you got about a quarter of the population is vegetarian. 300 million people are 100% vegetarian. But they do eat a lot of beans. See, they know how to get their protein. They're getting mung dal, which is one of the highest protein legumes there are. They also do a lot of lentils, tur dal, masur dal, other types of dal. So they're doing dal like 2-3 times a day. So they get plenty of protein. It's a very healthy diet. But they're having also a secondary source of protein, and that is the dairy, because they do paneer, which is a type of cheese. They do ghee, which is a more healthy form of butter that doesn't increase your cholesterol or your bad fat. And they'll do milk and kefir and yogurt, not in great amounts, but it's a secondary source of them for having a protein, particularly many dishes that will have paneer in them, like palak paneer, where they just put the little chunks of cheese right in there and it becomes a secondary source. So they have their mung dal, so they know how to do vegetarian diet because they've been doing it for thousands of years in southern India, and they have to eat their dal every day. And then they have a little cheese on top of that. They also drink glasses of milk, and they know the milk, the dairy is very important. So they add the dairy. That's why the one reason they take good care of their cows, and everybody's got a cow, because that giving them the extra milk and yogurt and paneer, kefir, all of these are coming from the cow. So cow is very important for a vegetarian to have dairy. So that was a big flaw in dieting thinking when the vegan diet came around. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we see a lot of vegans who are weak. Men complain about low libido, and women complain about fertility and menstrual cycles disappearing. And that's because they're generally weak, depleted, and underweight, and trying to, make up for it with other means. I do respect the moral view, but we're just looking at it from a logical health point of view. And of course, we tend to blame the milk, but we're kind of like blaming the cow, but really the cow isn't the problem. The real problem with dairy, because everybody says, oh, I can't digest dairy. I can't digest dairy. I hear it at least once or twice a day from new patients who actually can digest dairy. They just kind of get this in their head because they can't digest milk. And the reason they can't digest milk in most cases is because it's pasteurized and homogenized. So if you get it, or it's just cold. I mean, even in Ayurveda texts says never have cold milk. It's very hard to digest. Most people are just drinking it out of the fridge cold. So milk should always be warmed up. But milk is a little hard to digest, even raw milk. So that's why in Ayurveda, they don't advocate everybody does milk. If you're a kapha, overweight, heavy, fatty liver, you're not going to get milk in your diet. But if you're vata, usually or have a weaker digestive, if you're more sensitive, and they also don't advise milk. So 2 out of the 3 doshas, they're not advising milk anyway. For the vata, they generally advise the cream, the yogurt, the lassi, the fermented milk, because they're easier to digest. And then, of course, the ghee. So many people say, I can't have dairy, I can't have dairy, I can't have dairy. Oh, you can eat a piece of butter. Does it bother you? Oh, no, butter doesn't bother me. Yeah, if you have a little yogurt, does it bother me? No, yogurt doesn't bother me. So you're eating dairy. So, people get this thing stuck in their head that they can't have dairy because, years ago they were drinking milk and they were getting digestive problems. But most of the people are creating their own digestive problems, but that's another story. And my website is full of testimonials of people that thought they were, lactose intolerant, or now they're even drinking milk, and people who had, wheat intolerance and thought they had wheat allergies. Oh, I can't eat any wheat. And now they're eating wheat. So that's the other issue here is most people have digestive problems. Like I used to say when I was traveling and doing public speaking, I used to say, if you can't eat a piece of bread, you have a digestive problem. Don't eat the piece of bread. You should be able to eat a piece of pizza. I'm not saying pizza is the healthiest thing to eat, but you should be capable of eating it. Now, whole wheat, bread without the glyphosate. That was the big problem with the wheat, was the glyphosate, not the wheat. That's why many people, they go back to Europe and they go, yeah, in America, I go out to eat. I get any bread. I get gas and bloated and feel discomfort. But I came back from Italy. I was eating bread everywhere, pizza, and had no problems at all. Well, that's, because they're not doing what's called double spraying of glyphosate. And of course, many European countries, including Russia, don't even allow GMOs. So, here if you go to the supermarket and then 80% of everything you buy is genetically modified. And if it's genetically modified, you can be sure it's got extra dose of pesticides on it. And that's what gave people the upset. It wasn't the whole wheat grain. So we tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. We think, and that's how these fad diets end up forming, is because, dairy's all bad. I got gas and blood. Dairy's all bad. Okay, wheat's all bad, and the wheat's out. And, when I was in the 70s, I think there's even some picture of me holding like a whole wheat bread. I don't know how old I was, 14 or something. And I was like making whole wheat bread, because back then in the early 70s, making whole wheat bread was the epitome of the healthy person. If I would have mentioned to somebody in that time that there'll be a day where people think bread is unhealthy, and everybody would have rolled their eyes and never believed it. But that's exactly what's happened. And it's, because people have bad eating habits, snacking on nuts, crackers, eating at night, eating wrong foods, grazing, not having full meals, having cold food. There's just so many bad habits we have that, people have wrecked their own digestion, and then they can't even eat a piece of bread. So first thing you got to do is not throw the baby out with the bathwater and think all bread's God. Now people are saying all grains are bad. Well, they say no carbs, but they mean no grains. And that's another disaster. I get you can always change grains, you see. You can always change types of dairy. These blanket statements like, oh, all dairy's bad, all grains bad. Well, already, that's a big red flag. If you hear any a dietitian or, website talking like that, big red flag. Obviously, they don't know what they're talking about. Most of these people you read about online, they're just regurgitating things that they've found online. They're just doing research, basically, about a diet, and then they just dig up everything bad they can about wheat, and then they present it as their case, but they're not really dietitians or practitioners meeting patients every day. So then we leave out all the grains. And what happens when you leave out all the grains, it's our main source of the B vitamins. So I had many overweight people who really shouldn't have a lot of grains. Obviously, if you're obese or overweight, you shouldn't be eating a lot of bread and pizza, but there's other grains. There's millet, there's buckwheat. You can eat all the buckwheat you want. You're never going to gain weight. Millet is like really a good weight loss grain and even helps get water out of your system. Unfortunately, a lot of thin people hooked onto millet, and it just depletes them more. Again, people just, doing research online, randomly picking foods and grains based on what they find online, creating more health problems in many cases. So, but I do know I had a lot of patients who were on a grain-free diet for a year and did lose weight. They did lose weight because, you're kind of depleting yourself. I mean, it's easy to lose weight if you just like starve yourself to death and don't eat much. I mean, it doesn't take much brains to kind of lose weight by just eliminating so many foods that you're barely just living off of shakes and protein shakes and supplements. I mean, you're going to lose weight doing that. But what happens, and this information came from the people themselves, they said for the first time they felt anxiety in their life and even had trouble sleeping. And my conclusion was they weren't getting enough B vitamins, because we know the grains are what we call the comfort food. When people are often had trauma or something went in their life like that, they turn to bread and grains and to feel better. And then they became overweight and things like that because of the overconsumption of these grains. But on the other hand, if you don't have any at all, you're just eating and more likely the same type of person who leaves out grain, leaves out meat, and then that person also leaves out dairy. So, whole wheat bread is another source of protein. So you've eliminated all your protein. This is going to just make your libido tank. I mean, and you're living off of, vegetables, some fruit and some protein bars and some shakes and some other things. But you may not be getting enough B vitamins, and then you start to have anxiety, worry, and poor sleep. And apparently from the people that have been on this grain-free diet for a year or two, even though they lose weight, they say the desire to eat a piece of bread just gets larger every year. And, we have to listen to our body. I have a webinar, I've spoke about this. It's up on YouTube. It gets a lot of traffic. It says, listen to your body, not other people. And recently I've been saying things like, listen to your body, not Instagram, or Facebook, listen to your body. So, these people who are on these depleting diets, like I said, I kind of a little bit trick them because I don't really want them to know my views on their diet initially. So a guy who's just having grain free, I said, do you feel like a craving for just say like some whole wheat bread or like a sandwich sometimes in there? Oh, yeah. Do you take a lot of discipline not to eat the bread? I mean, and, and they go, oh, yeah, I just really miss it. You actually miss it. So, they're actually, their body's telling them that something's missing in their diet. I do it too with people with say, oh, I can't have dairy. Sometimes I see it in their form. And so I just ask them, Do you have much butter in your diet? No, I don't use any butter. Well, okay. Do you, let me just phrase it differently. Do you like butter? I mean, did you used to like butter? Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, did you before you became vegan? Did you like butter? Yeah, oh yeah, I like butter. And you never got gas and bloating from butter? Oh no, no, no. But milk gave you props? Oh yeah, I can't do dairy. You mean you can't do milk? Oh yeah, I can't do milk. But hey, do you like a little yogurt? Well, I don't. I'm vegan. Oh, but in the past, you used to like yogurt? Yeah. I mean, sometimes do you feel like cheating and just want to have a little butter on your rice or your bread or your meal? And oh yeah. I mean, would you really say that? Maybe I know you're not doing it, but would you really say that you miss it? And they're like, yeah. See, so their body's telling them something and they're not listening. Now, vegetarian diet's a very healthy diet, particularly if you're overweight and you're having beans and you're doing proper food combining and you're getting all your protein. But when people aren't, I ask them questions like, do you feel weak? Do you feel like, God, it's getting harder to pick up and throw out the trash and you just don't feel as strong and your muscle? Yeah, not feeling. And, and what about your libido? I mean, you just don't feel you have like that good drive, like, oh, let's have some wild sex here. And I go, oh yeah, libido's down. See, so I ask the questions that I know are, proving to the patient that they need to change their diet. And I could even say, but do you sometimes feel that, you just wouldn't really mind just going out and get a good burger? And some people, yeah, but I don't because I'm vegetarian. But you're craving it. I mean, you could say you're craving. Would you crave eggs sometimes? Yeah, I do crave eggs. My wife makes eggs, and I look at them and I think, man, I would love those eggs. And women, particularly young women who are having their menstrual cycle, you do ask them, well, don't you have after your menstrual cycle? I know you have like 5 days of heavy bleeding, 7 days total. I mean, don't you feel a little fatigued after that? I mean, do you have like cravings, where you want to just like go eat a burger? And she's going, oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes I can't even control myself. See, so the body's telling her she's lost all that blood. She just needs to go get a hamburger. Now, you don't have to go to a fast food joint to get good hamburger, but I have talked to many vegan women into having at least some ground beef once a month, when their menstrual cycle starts to help them to replenish themselves. So, and now, of course, the keto diet, that's a terrible one. I get a lot of medical doctors as patients. I had no medical doctors as patients 5 years ago. Now they're coming quite regularly. And, I try to bond with them. And I said, what do you think of that keto diet? And I had one guy, he worked in the emergency room in Los Angeles. And he told me that they actually are asking people who passed out and brought into the emergency room, were you on the keto diet? And even emergency response people may ask other people in the house, was this person on the keto diet? That's how many people passed out from the keto diet. You're forcing this ketosis state, which in medical school they learn is unhealthy thing. So they agree with me kind of for different reasons, but it's an extreme diet, very unhealthy. And the new diets, the carnivore diet, even more extreme and unhealthy. And I believe a lot of now the new fad, of course, is to leave out fruits because all fruits are bad. They're all sweet. They're all going to, feed your parasites and your worms. So, you're leaving out entire food groups. I mean, we only got so many food groups in the first place. I mean, we got our animal protein, we got legumes, we've got vegetables, we got grains, we got fruit. And now you're just like, no fruit at all? I mean, you just threw out a whole food group because it's got, quote, sugar in it? I mean, come on, that's the new thing. But I've been corrected. It's not the new thing. The new thing is no vegetables. Can you believe it? I mean, I don't know what else people are going to be eating here now that this carnivore diet doesn't even like vegetables. Because I guess the carnivores, they didn't do much farming. They also didn't live very long. They were strong, but they didn't live long. So that's the new fad. And what we get, and I'm going to do a podcast on this, is the epidemic of depletion in this country. And it's because we're all doing these extreme diets that none of them are nutritionally sound. I would say the vegetarian diet done properly is nutritionally sound. I would say if you want to just pick a diet that's fairly healthy, I would say the Mediterranean diet. You got the fish, you've got the salad, you got the fresh vegetables, you got some rice, and you have whole wheat bread, and you got lentils. So I would say if we want to just pick a name of a diet out there, it would be the Mediterranean diet. Now, people have told me about, seafood diet. Oh, seafood can be very wonderful. Of course, mercury is a little bit of a problem now, but we have to set that aside just for the conversation purposes. But yeah, again, Mediterranean diet is very good. I used to be more radical when I was young, and now I do have my fair share of wild salmon on a regular basis. And people who are taking a lot of omega-3s, I said, why don't you just eat some salmon? It's once or twice a week. So these diets are all extreme, all unhealthy. Now, I really want to cover the factual reasons to prove to you without a shadow of a doubt that nobody can tell you what to eat except, somebody who's aware of your situation. Because I'm going to give a few points here and wind this up. First point is that we're all different. So all books that say this is the best diet, even these diets written by doctors for high blood pressure, they're a disaster. And I treat a lot of ulcerative colitis, and people get on some diet the doctor gives them. I can't remember what it's called right now, but hey, I have to tell people, just forget that. It doesn't work. I've had everybody who's been coming to me on this diet, and it's a completely different diet than I use, and I'm treating successfully ulcerative colitis. And they go, yeah, okay, we'll change to your diet. So even the medical doctors are giving out diets that just don't work. And going to a nutritionist from a doctor, I mean, that's another reason why we get on a lot of these poor diets, is because we just look at the nutritional factors. Let me give you a few examples. I got people who are big, heavy, overweight people, even with, possible like pre-diabetic, and they're eating bananas every day. I go, why would you eat bananas every day? I mean, you can't find a more fattening fruit, higher in blood sugar, besides maybe date, than banana. You're overweight, heavy guy, pre-diabetic. Why are you eating bananas? Potassium. I'm like, oh my God. Another one. I got a few of these. You're having chocolate every day? I mean, isn't it a little stimulating? Yeah, it's a little stimulating. I mean, so I don't do it at night anymore. I just do it in the morning because it's stimulating. But, I'm getting dark chocolate, but it's not all 100% dark chocolate. I mean, it's still got sugar in it, right? Yeah, it's still got sugar in it. So, but chocolate is inflammatory. It's going to make your joint pain worse. You got irritable bowel. It's going to make that worse. It's stimulating. You're already a nervous, sensitive person with anxiety, and you're popping chocolate all day long. Why are you doing that? Magnesium. See the problem? That's the problem right there. You only look at the nutritional aspect. So whenever you're online and you see 5 foods with magnesium, you're already going down the wrong path. This is a disaster. Just thinking in nutritional terms is a disaster. And I couldn't think of a good analogy for a long time. And I like analogies. So here's my analogy. I hope you like it, folks. Here's the analogy. Would you pick a man? We're talking to the women, but you can reverse this around for the men. If you would pick a man because the only thing you look at is he's got great testosterone. Wow, look at those testosterone numbers on this guy. Fantastic. I'm marrying him. Well, a man is a little bit more than his testosterone. And a woman's a little bit more than their estrogen. Sure, a woman wants a guy with a little oomph and some testosterone, and a man wants a woman with a little, estrogen there. I mean, it creates the masculine, feminine side of them. So, but you don't just pick your partner based on the amount of hormones they've got. But people are picking food all the time just because it's got magnesium, it's high in calcium, something like that. So you got to throw that whole thinking out of the window. That will save you a lot of mistakes. But back to why nobody can ever tell you what to eat. One, we're all different. Some people, and this is where Ayurveda is so sophisticated. Ayurveda has individualized diets for all different types of people. I can do 5 clients in a row, not one of them I give the same diet. And I never tell people what I eat. Anybody telling you what they eat already, they're not professional. They're just kind of preaching, maybe a narcissist. They believe their discovery is, of their diet that they've come up with is the best diet. I don't care if they're an MD or whoever they are. That's type of narcissism, thinking everybody should follow the same food as you. It's like saying everybody should listen to the same music as me. We're too different. Ayurveda has the best system for diet. They're the masters of diet, better than Chinese, better than any other system. And that's because they individualize it based on your qualities. What do they look for first? We'll look at some of the major differences. Some people are hot and warm. Like I'm a very warm guy. I just turned up the AC. I get hot easy. I can't do good with hot foods. Chili, pepper, cayenne pepper, even garlic, even ginger gets me. I can get heartburn, acid reflux, burning sensation. I don't do hot, spicy food at all. But there's other people who are cold and vata types and kapha types. They're cold. They need ginger. They need hot spices. And they even need warm food. I mean, many people will digest food much better if there's ginger in it. And many people their circulation will improve by having a little cayenne pepper in their food. Both two things that a warm person like me isn't going to do. So there's one criteria right there. Hot or not hot, a cold person. Second, what about heavy? Some people are overweight, some people are thin. Now, everybody in this country tends to follow a weight loss diet, no grains, no animal protein. These are all good, going in the right direction of losing weight. But the problem is you got thin people who are underweight. We often call them Karens, they're thin, nervous, anxious, and often underweight and depleted. And they're also following this no grains, no animal protein, no dairy. But in fact, they're the ones that need the animal protein and the dairy and the wheat because they're thin and depleted and underweight. So they're thin and the other person's heavy. These people can't eat the same thing. There's so many depleted people in the United States. It's unbelievable. I'm going to do a whole podcast on this. I probably deal with more depleted people than overweight people. Like I always say to overweight people, it's a pleasure to do an appointment with an overweight person because they know, hey, I can't eat hamburgers anymore. Yeah, I got to cut back on the bread. No more pasta. No more. They're all agreement. They know those are heavyweight gaining foods. But when you talk to a thin underweight person, you just tell them to eat 3 meals a day. They don't want to do it. They want to live off of smoothies and shakes and coffee and be grain-free, dairy-free, wheat-free. And they're like 105 pounds. And they're weak and frail. And sometimes the women's menstrual cycle stops because they're so depleted. Fertility rates drop, libido drops, stamina drops, and your whole lifespan is probably dropping because you're just not getting enough nutrients because you're starving yourself to death. And you're already a thin, skinny person who's not overweight in the first place, but you're following an overweight diet. So, I mean, this is a problem with our society. We're all trying to lose weight. Even the people who are underweight are trying to lose weight. So another criteria. Some people are heavy. Some people are thin. Next, some people are dry. They have dry skin. They need more fat. They need more oil. They need more liquids. Other people got oily skin and, which would mean like cholesterol and fatty liver and obesity and oily skin. Well, they got to have a lot less oil than a person who's dry. But of course, we see the people with dry, I don't have any oil, I don't have any fat. Why? You have dry, hard stools, you have dry skin, you have you're extremely dry. Why would you leave out all these fats? Oh, seed oils are bad. I don't want to do dairy. Well, what's left? What oil? You're just like your car. You have to have a certain amount of fat every day, or oil just to keep the car going. I mean, even a brand new car is using up a little bit of oil every single day, which is why you have to put in another quart every few months. And if you're not having fat every day in your diet, you're going to create neurological problems. Well, we get so many elderly people with dementia. I get them on there and the daughter or somebody brings them and I ask the grandma, are you on a low fat diet? Oh yeah, I've been on a low fat diet for 40 years. And now she can't even remember the name of her kids. I mean, the white brain matter in her head is just dried up from being on her low fat diet and doing margarine for 40 years. So low fat diet, neurological problems, skin problems, rashes, constipation. Low fat diet is a disaster. But unless you're a really overweight, heavy person with oily skin, you probably don't need much fat. But that's another difference. Dry. And then there's then some people are very active. Their mind's going very fast, blah, 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 like I'm doing. They're running around. They're just kind of high metabolism, we could say. And there's other people who are slow. I need a cup of coffee to get going. slow metabolism. And those type of people with slow metabolism and are overweight and don't have any anxiety, they do great with coffee. I give coffee out as medicine all the time. But if you're a nervous, anxious person, can't sleep and having panic attacks, then coffee's poison for you. If you're a heavy, overweight person with no appetite in the morning and you don't have any anxiety, you're just kind of more a little bit lethargic more than you are anxious, then okay, fine, have your cup of coffee and get going. So coffee can be medicine for one person, it could be poison for another person. Meat could be poison for one person with fatty liver and high cholesterol and obesity. And it could be medicine for the girl who's anemic and having heavy menstrual bleeding. So these are just a few of the main criteria that are need to be taken in account before I recommend a diet or an Ayurvedic doctor recommends a diet. Hot or cold, heavy or light, dry or oily, active or slow. These are just a few. There's even more. They're called the gunas in Ayurveda, and there's 20 different gunas and 10 combinations, and I just covered 5. So once those are seen, once we see those, then we know they're doshic imbalance, vata, pitta, or kapha, and then we give the diet accordingly. So in Ayurveda, we have many diets: vata diet, pitta diet, kapha diet, vata pitta, vata kapha, pitta vata, kapha pitta, and kapha vata. So there's different variations of diets. And then even then, if I have 3 people who are pitta vata, I still may tweak the diet a little bit because, maybe pitta vata is not really an overweight person, but of the 3, one of them could be overweight. So I still have to change the diet, or one could be depleted. So I'll still adjust the diet and just use that original diet, whether it's pitta vata diet, vata pitta diet, kapha diet, and I'll still tweak it a little bit because there's another major factor we have to think about. There are health issues. You can't just tell a person that treat them without knowing all their health issues. There's so many different health issues a person has. For example, if you have high blood pressure, you can't be eating hot spices just for that reason alone. A high blood pressure will push up your spices. Coffee will push up your blood pressure. Hot spices will push up your blood pressure. Even tomatoes or the nightshades can restrict your arteries. Like we take vitamin niacin as a vascular dilator. It makes our vascular system relax, so it's not so rigid, and it helps with the blood pressure. Well, tomatoes tighten up your vascular system, which, there can be good cases for, but not if you have high blood pressure. And people could have low blood pressure. So most people are trying to avoid things that create high blood pressure, like too much sodium, water retention, swelling, nightshades and tomatoes. But if you have low blood pressure, and maybe you're dry and maybe you need a little more salt in the body. You need to retain more water. And there's certain foods that can actually increase the blood pressure, increase the heart rate. And even heart rate's in a factor. You have a low pulse, you have a high pulse. So it's not just the pressure, but even the pulse can make a difference in the food you're giving. If you understand the foods, and in Ayurveda, they understand the actions of the food. They don't care about the nutrition. That's what's sending people astray, is only thinking in nutritional terms. But Ayurveda doesn't. Ayurveda thinks in terms of what the food does to your body. Does it make you hot? Does it make you cold? Does it make you heavy? Does it make you thin? Is it oily? Is it stimulating your metabolism? It's not. Is it good for blood pressure? It's lowering blood pressure. So you got blood pressure you have to consider. You got blood sugar. Now, if your blood sugar is low, okay, have some bananas, and you're a thin person, you're tired, you're weak, you got low blood sugar, okay, eat dates and bananas all day. But if you've got high blood sugar, you're not eating dates and bananas anymore. You're down to apples. And if you're insulin dependent, you probably can't even have apples. So your health condition is so important. Cholesterol. If you've been living in the South, eating a lot of pork fat and beef, and, people in the South, they think of beef is like a vitamin, but you eat it too much, then you get cholesterol, fatty liver, obesity, and, you just become too thick, and tumors start to grow on you and all kinds of stuff. So eventually they have to cut it out. You can't do it your whole life. But if you're a thin person and you're depleted, and you're even pregnant and you're having a baby, you may be very attracted to having more animal protein and meat. I would not really recommend a woman, unless she really knows what she's doing, to not have any animal protein while pregnant. So, and even in anxiety, like I said about coffee, some people don't have any anxiety at all. They can drink coffee, they can have all kinds of stimulants, they're fine. Well, other people even have a decaf and it drives them out, aggravates their system. By the way, coffee is inflammatory, and that should be another condition that needs to be looked at. So, you got to understand the person from the Ayurvedic perspective, which we talked about. You got to know all their health conditions, and there's more. You have to know their age. I mean, when you're young and growing up, you need a lot more protein. You're growing. You're making more bones. Your whole body's growing. And so you can, that's why kids, they love pasta, cheese, meat, and things like that. So I prefer not to raise children vegetarian unless you're very careful. They can do it in India because they're all used to eating the beans every day. And then, of course, your gender also makes a difference. Menstruating woman's losing a lot of blood, so she's going to need, she has different nutritional requirements than a man who's not menstruating. And of course, once you get into menopause, you have other changes to your hormones, which also can mean your diet needs to change. And then furthermore, it's the season. I mean, I'm growing a lot of vegetables, and we got some vegetables in the spring, some vegetables in the fall, some vegetables in the winter. And that's how we should be eating these vegetables. Now, we don't. I just go to the supermarket and buy my favorites. But if I was living off the land, which I'd love to do, I'd be just living off of my garden, and I would only be eating what's in season, and that would be much healthier. But for example, if it's freezing cold outside, even a guy who's warm like me is going to need more ginger, more warm foods, more soups, more hot vegetables. Did I get that wrong? If it's cold outside, I get the hot soups and the hot spices. If it's warm outside, then I want more fruit, more salads, more leafy greens, cilantro, more cooling, lighter foods. So season has a big difference. And even your location. If you're up high in the mountains, it's different. You're going to have a different diet than somebody in the desert. So you can just forget all diet books. You can forget all nutritionists who just look in a book and think that they're going to give you, eat this for your vitamin C, eat this for your B, take these supplements. And I did a whole podcast on, the harm and usefulness of synthetic vitamins. We shouldn't even be taking synthetic vitamins. These all came around in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and now we have food-based vitamins. So we're trying to supplement our depleted diet from our depleted soil with synthetic vitamins, often in the form of smoothies, shakes, and it's a disaster. It's a disaster. And nobody's listening to their body. We're all listening to Instagram and not tuning into our own body. We're getting lost down nutritional trails of thinking, it's got some new magnesium or calcium in it, so I'm eating a lot every day. That sends a lot of people astray. So, the best, most people intuitively know what to eat. Like when, obviously, if you're just really confused, you do an appointment with an Ayurveda doctor, and he ain't going to take 2 minutes. He's going to know the best diet for you because he's going to diagnose you, not listen to what you believe or think or your nutritional talk. He's just going to look at you. He's going to do this type of evaluation based on the criteria that I just listed, all your, hot, cold, heavy, dry, light, all your health conditions, your weather, the season you're in now. He's going to take all that into his head and he's going to give you a diet. In fact, a lot of my patients, I give them one diet in the summer, I give them a different diet in the wintertime. But children have intuition till they get on the internet. Once they get on the internet, they're gone, they're as confused as the adults. But if you get a 7 or 8 year old who's not on the internet and you ask him what food you like, what vegetables you like, you have to leave out all of the unhealthy things. He may like McDonald's, but assume you're never taking him to McDonald's. You're just taking him to the market and saying, okay, what vegetable do you like? He's going to pick the right one. What fruits are your favorite? He's going to pick the right ones. And that's the best way for a young child. Just take them to the market and say, pick your favorite vegetable. A lot of parents kind of impose their beliefs on their children's diet. The parent gets some idea in their head that, so all fruits are bad, or all dairy's bad, or all wheat's bad. Next thing you know, they're imposing it on the child, then bringing me the child who's got the depletion, the weakness, nutritional problems, the anxiety, the ADHD, because the parent ain't even giving them enough food. And you ask the kid, hey, do you like pizza? Oh, yeah. I mean, do you like, okay, that's not a good example. Would you like a hamburger sometimes? Yeah, he wants a hamburger. Yeah, he's a growing kid. He's weak. He's thin. He's underweight. I mean, he wants a hamburger. But the parent imposing their own view, it's a big problem for child rearing. So if you have 5 children, they could all be a little different. And you may have to feed them a little different. But while they're young, they actually know what's good for them. You're just not listening. You're imposing your own belief system on top of the child. It's the same thing, the people writing all the books saying everybody should be vegan, everybody should be vegetarian, everybody should follow paleo. This is the best diet, the carnivore diet, the keto diet. It's the same thing. It's just adults opposing their own view on other adults, but adults also, push their dietary beliefs onto their own children instead of understanding their own children's uniqueness and nutritional needs as a young child is growing, or a young girl who's menstruating. It's completely different than you. I never tell people what I'm eating. Sometimes people ask me, and I said, it doesn't matter to me what I'm eating. I'm not the postmenopausal woman with degenerative bones and hot flashes. You are. So what you're eating and what I'm eating is completely different. Nobody should tell you what they're eating if they're giving you advice. That's your first warning that they're just an amateur. Okay, folks, I hope you got the point. I hope I proved my case once and for all. I hope it's case closed on the fad diets. I hope that this share this podcast, this recording with other people, and try to help people in your life to get off of these diets and start tuning into your own intuition, and maybe even do a little Ayurvedic self-test to see what you are and what foods are most suitable for you. You can do that online, or see an Ayurveda doctor, and he'll tell you in like 1 minute. In fact, Ayurveda is meant to be given to the parent when the child's born. I say it all the time to people. If what I told you today, I told your mother when you were born, all these health problems that you have, you wouldn't have. And that's the best way. You see the Ayurveda doctor when the child's born. The Ayurveda doctor can diagnose the child even when he's young. Learn and say, oh, this child, don't give him spicy food. This child will always be weak and you're going to need to give him a lot of animal protein. This child will be, they can tell just by looking and diagnosing even a baby. And then you can avoid all these health problems. People think just because they're eating healthy, they're healthy. Well, I get people all the time who are eating healthy and they have cancer and all kinds of health problems, because it's more than just eating healthy foods. It's got to eat the right food for you at the time in your life that you're in your health conditions, which could be completely different than your wife, your mother, your brother, or your kids. And it's very important for people to know that. And that's what my patients are doing. Most of them are women, and they realize they come to this understanding. Then they think about the husband. Then they adjust the husband's diet or make him do an appointment. And then they want to know about each of their children, and then make little adjustments for each of their children. Because once you get this concept in your head, you can't just come out the gate thinking this is the best diet I'm going to feed my family and tell everybody to eat. Once you realize we're all unique, we're all different, and you have to diagnose and understand the individual for that time period, because it could change in the summer, it could change in 5 years. You can't be fixed in your thinking. Well, I wish you all the best of health and happiness, and hope that you all just throw all your diet books out the window. Your fad diets, whether they're written by an MD or whoever they're written by, just forget them and try to tune in to your own diet based on your Ayurvedic body type. That will send you in the right direction. Most of the people, when I tell them these are the best foods for you, they go, oh, I love those foods. I don't even have much resistance. Once I telling the people these are the best foods for you, when people start saying, yeah, I love those. But sometimes they weren't eating them because they thought, I thought fruit was bad. I thought dairy was bad. I thought grains were bad. So even you tell them, do you like it? Do you like it? They like it, but they're not doing it because their head is thinking that it's not good for them because something they read on social media. That's what I have to deal with every day. A lot of times, if they just went and asked their grandma who's not on the internet what I should be eating, she's going to probably tell you what they've all been eating traditionally in their family for generations. And it's not changed until people got all confused on the internet and started doing crazy fad diet, which is ruining people's health and creating new health problems, particularly kidney stones, kidney failures through the roof. we depletion, underweight. We're getting a lot of health problems from these diets. And there's a lot of nutritional problems. That's why people doing shakes and other type of stuff on top. Okay. Thank you very much. I look forward to hearing from you. And please share this with other people so we can educate people and avoid some of these problems. God bless you all.